go ahead and we pivot to our social media segment for Hashtags. For that, we'd like to welcome in Landon Swan, the co-founder of LikeFolio.com. Good morning to you, Landon. And we got Jenny Horn alongside us as well to talk some Netflix. Jenny, you made a point right before we started here. You know, coronavirus might make more people watch TV, but does Netflix really care if people are watching or not, as long as they're paying for the subscription?
Exactly. So we've seen a lot of different headlines that Netflix is poised to benefit with the coronavirus. And Imperial Capital said what I liked the best. They call this the cocooning effect, because people are staying inside and they're watching more Netflix. But then I saw a really interesting report from a Needham analyst this morning that said it doesn't matter, because either way you're paying your $8 to $16 a month, and that doesn't change how many hours you end up watching Netflix. So they came out and basically were like, they tossed out the whole theory that Netflix is going to benefit, and actually said that revenue in an international sense could actually be damaged from the coronavirus. So there's a lot of different headwinds going for Netflix, a lot of different tailwinds, but all in all, streaming is big business. That hasn't changed. I mean, the industry as a whole generated $25.9 billion last year. So despite the fact that there is so much competition in this space from Disney+, HBO, Comcast's Peacock now, Netflix is still the biggest player. And I mean, they generated something of $20 billion last year. So they're not going away anytime soon. But of course, the coronavirus is on the forefront of traders' minds. That goes into my first tweet, which says, Netflix has broken out and is now back-testing a huge symmetrical triangle. You never know, maybe coronavirus will cause people to stay at home and watch more movies. So Landon, when it comes to your data, of course, I know you all are looking at more of a long-term, but with the coronavirus, are you seeing any change in Netflix data?
Yeah, you know, it's not a tremendous amount of change. I mean, we're seeing that people talking about signing up for the service has gone up quite a bit. I don't think it's directly correlated. You can see that the spike here started in early 2020. So people are signing up for new accounts at an all-time high, which is obviously good for Netflix. And actually, when we look at cancellations, they're on the downtrend as well. So cancellations sort of spiked in the middle of the year, and now they've been downtrending quite a bit. So all in all, very good news for Netflix. And I think a lot of it has to do with the original programming, original content. So when we look at competitors like Disney and the others, what we've seen is that, you know, there may be an initial spike as people come in and want to watch some new programming, but they run through that very quickly and they get tired of the lack of new content. And Netflix, the biggest thing that they're good at is providing new content. There was a recent survey or a poll that showed what of the top streaming 50 TV shows, who owned them and who was streaming them. Netflix actually had 48 of the top 50. And so they're absolutely dominating when it comes to original content. I think that's going to continue to push up subscriber growth.
No, and I'm glad you mentioned that, Landon. That's interesting to notice as you kind of show that, you know, correlation isn't always the causation. The virus might be correlated to some of these spikes that you're seeing, but it might be actually more of the original content that they're launching. I have a question for you kind of on the type of content that Netflix is making. Recently, they had that Love is Blind show that was all over Twitter and the different stuff, which was more in the reality TV space, which, you know, has historically been kind of a cash cow for these networks. If Netflix is able to get into that space, is that important for them? Is they're not going to have to make things like The Irishman that cost millions and millions and millions of dollars to compete?
Yeah, I think so. I think that, you know, obviously anything like that's going to help Netflix. And, you know, one of the things that we've seen is that as competitors get into the space, especially with like a Disney Plus, they've actually increased people signing up for Netflix. And it's almost contrary to what you might think, but really what they're doing when when Disney Plus came in, Roku got a tremendous bump because people had to find a way to get that channel. And then also, once you have a platform like Roku that you've added, or you got your new Roku TV, you're like, you know, what else can I get? And Netflix is so cheap that there's no reason that you can't have both Netflix and Disney Plus, or maybe some of the other services that Jenny talked about. It's not a situation where consumers are picking one and going with that. They're like, you know what, for $5 or $8 a month, I'll get that one too. Because people are used to, you know, when you go back 5 or 10 years ago, people are used to $40, $50, $60 cable bills. So you can fit a lot of streaming services and still be way under that if you're looking to add multiple services.
$40, $50. Landon, you got to come to Chicago, dude. $40, $50 won't even get you anything in Chicago. But here's my question. I got a little silly question. Is Jason Bateman, is there some type of contract? Does he have to be on every show on Netflix?
I know.
He's on everything.
He's on everything. They do have the repeat offenders, I feel like. For their original content, you see the same faces.
He is unbelievable how many shows he's on right now. And he was like the little brother of the real star when they were child stars, and now he's the man.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
I completely agree.
Yeah, he's on everything.
No kidding. But I mean, Landon, I have a question because Alex and I were joking before the break. We're, of course, the millennial audience, and all of our friends just share accounts. So, I mean, how are you getting people to sign up for a new account instead of just sharing someone else's?
Yeah, that's a good point. And, you know, I know a lot of people that do that. And I think that Netflix, you know, they do their best, that you can only authorize so many accounts. But I think you can get up to maybe 4 or 5 on some of the higher account levels, 12 or 13 bucks a month. And yeah, you can share that among 4 or 5 people. You millennials are always going to be a little cheap. And I think that's just going to be something that Netflix battles against. But, you know, that's just part of the game. And right now, I think that really it's just getting more people watching the shows. And, you know, you talked about coronavirus earlier. This is a crazy stat. So we track mentions of that virus, and it is actually up 85% when you compare yesterday to the day before yesterday. It is almost doubled from Sunday to Monday. So I do think more people are going to be staying home. They're definitely going to be watching TV. And if they haven't already signed up for Netflix, it's got to be front of their mind because all their friends are going to be telling them about what they can do. And if they're not up to sharing an account, they're going to sign up.
Yeah, and I mean, I of course have to say I canceled Netflix because of exactly what the tweet you just saw on screen reference is that Netflix has pulled all these great shows. I mean, I was on the show with Megan not that long ago, and we were talking about how Friends is gone, and that was a huge reason I canceled Netflix. I mean, I know you're seeing your data is declining with cancellations, but it feels like with all these good shows going away, they must be losing business. But of course, you're saying their original content is kind of stepping up to the plate.
Sure, it is. For you it was Friends. For me, it was Frasier. That one hurt a lot. But I think they're bringing in Seinfeld, so that helps. But you know, it's tough when you get used to watching a show and then it goes away. But you know, as long as they don't take away Office, I'll be okay. But no, I think that original content is key. Again, 48 out of the top 50 streaming shows are on Netflix. That's really important. Mandalorian was the #1 for a while, but until they get new episodes, people are, you know, they've already watched it. And so you can see, you know, looking at this chart, it's pretty interesting to see how Netflix is holding in there. Everything's on sale right now, as you guys know. I mean, this is tough trading conditions, but a company like Netflix is poised to be a winner long term. And you know, you may be thinking of it as a company that's on sale off about 40 bucks from its high.
Yeah, Landon, last kind of closing thoughts here. Obviously, we looked at 2 particular things of your data, one being new subscriptions, the other being cancellations. We know that you're primarily looking at English-speaking Americans in terms of the tweets that you're looking at. With their growth kind of being elsewhere and international, is the cancellation downtrend that we're starting to see more important than new subscriptions in your opinion? Or which one of those charts do you think is more important for Netflix here in the US?
You know, I think they're both important. Obviously, you want, you know, positive additions to subscribers, and you want to reduce negative subscribers growth or cancellations. It is tough because we only track English speaking. And, you know, last quarter, I think that their international revenue our international subscribers was up like 14 or 15% quarter over quarter, really strong growth. We're not tracking that at all. So I think we can be a good bellwether or canary in the coal mine for how things may be going overseas. We know they're going very well in the US. There was a little bit of a scare over the last, 6 months or so as far as Netflix data is. You know, new subscription services came in and people were talking about canceling, but in the end, you know, they come out with the new Stranger Things or The Witcher or whatever it may be. It gets people coming back, and it just keeps happening more and more. And the more shows that they have where they're releasing a new season more and more often, it's just going to get people to say, you know what, I'm just going to stick with Netflix for life. So I think that they're very good at creating new content, and that's very strong for them.
Yeah, 48 out of 50, I believe you said. So that's incredible in terms of the success that they're having. But Landon, great stuff as always, and thanks for joining us. Thanks to Jenny as well.